Hello, welcome to my channel, Bow and Arrow Tarot. Today we're going to get right into the March love outlook for my lovely sign of Taurus. All right, Taurus, I love you guys. I myself am a Sagittarius, but I got a Taurus rising. So, you know, no points for guessing who's got the temper. But in any case, let's get right into it, my lovelies. We're going to go take a general look at your love outlook for March. Now, please do remember, this is just a general reading. If you have a particular situation that you want to get clarity on, please do go ahead and book a private reading with me if you'd like. I always advise you to, take these general outlooks as a guideline. Your situation may not always be exactly the same, even if it does resonate. So once again, let's go ahead and just see what your outlook is. And of course, if this does not relate to your situation at all, then please let it go, because this reading then is not for you. All right, guys, so straight out, we're going to pull a full Celtic spread for you. Justice, Death, Five of Pentacles, and the Tower. Okay. High Priestess, and Judgment. Wow. So 5 major arcana. Queen of Cups, Knight of Swords. We have a 10 of Swords, and the outcome is Lovers. Interesting. Bottom of the spread, or the deck rather, you have 4 of Pentacles. So, overall concerns about money affecting your love life this March, Taurus. Once again, I always say this about Taurus. You guys aren't, in general, you're all about working, your career, your ambition, and all of that sort of thing. And so a lot of times that is going to impact your love life, or how you feel, how comfortable you feel. Certainly, if you are mostly worried about financial stability, or whether or not your finances are being threatened in some way, then this is going to have an impact, right? Let's get right into it. We have Justice and the Death card, so big changes coming, right? Huge changes coming as a result of some kind of official action, right? Justice, of course, talks about a rebalancing of energies, rebalancing sort of the books, as it were, right? Bringing justice to an unjust or an unjust situation. And that's what injustice is, really. It's an out of balance, It's an out of balance situation where one side is bearing the brunt of something. And so with justice, we often talk about perhaps a legal decision, documents being signed, right? Official agreements, mediations. In love, we often can talk about justice representing possible divorce or a legal separation, right? Custody battles, things like that, right? So I believe that Taurus, a lot of you are really waiting for a very official sort of notification to come in this March, and it's going to bring huge and sweeping changes, because the Death card is your energy, covering everything. So there's a big sort of transformation that's about to happen as a result of some sort of official action. I'm going to come back to that and get into it a bit more in a moment, but we have in your conscious and unconscious, right? So in the focus of your mind, you are focusing this month on rebuilding from a ground up sort of scenario, right? 5 of Pentacles is usually a power dynamic in which there has been a split, a divide, a separation of some kind, and you're the one paying the financial price. I wouldn't be surprised for some of you, Taurus, if you're going through indeed some kind of a divorce or separation, and right now you're really having to struggle with the financial implications of that, and that is very much in the front of your mind. Tower moment is in the back of your mind, and so that's quite interesting. It almost feels as though whatever this event is that's coming in with the Justice card, whatever this legal, I'm going to say, or official event coming in, it is going to serve a very unexpected outcome, right? I think there's going to be a real surprise coming in. It may even be that, an example could be coming to court and finding out that the other person is completely capitulated. giving you everything that you wanted, even though you're ready for a fight. It could be that, whatever instigated the separation up here, you were expecting it to go really, really badly. The Tower, of course, is a moment when generally we feel like divine intervention has come into a scenario and really changed everything about what we expected, right? The Tower represents our ideas about life and ourselves, right? Our opinions, the way we see the world, right? And the way we expect the world to treat us. And oftentimes when a divine event comes in and breaks that tower down, it usually serves as a revelation that we were not all the way correct, or the take that we had on the way things were going to go was not correct. This is a very positive thing. I'm looking ahead at the cards, and this is a positive Tower moment that's coming in. It's going to be extremely unexpected, but very positive. Now, the High Priestess is here, and she very rarely shows up for my readings. We have the High Priestess in Judgment. So the energy you're coming into the month with is that you're going to be having a lot of sort of intuitional feelings and ideas coming in. That little voice inside your head is telling you things, and it could very well be that you are, you may not, let's say you may not be used to it, or you may even feel like the voice or that intuition is telling you something, and you're just, it's hard for you to believe what it is. It could be that you're already having a sort of inkling of this Tower moment coming up, but I think that the Tower moment is so shocking that you almost can't believe that it's going to happen. But it's almost like this feeling of knowing that things are going to work out no matter how bad they seem to be on the surface, right? Because right now, Five of Pentacles does indicate a very dire situation. Can be a dire situation, but nevertheless, your intuition is telling you that it's going to work out. Trust that intuition. The High Priestess is also one of the highest cards for self-confidence, and a lot of reasons why is because when we do trust our intuition, and then we have affirmations or reaffirmations that come into our lives that prove we were right, our self-confidence gets a boost. Our self-confidence suddenly goes through the roof. Self-confidence and listening to your inner voice. And when we say intuition, we're not talking about the ego. We're talking about your real intuitive voice. Sometimes the intuitive voice tells you things you don't want to hear. Regardless, you'll know the difference. And in any case, that connection of self-confidence and increased intuitional ability go hand in hand. Because, of course, you have to have the confidence to trust that voice, even if it's telling you something you don't necessarily want to hear. Right? Now, Judgment comes in because there is a feeling of reconciliation. Now, this could very well be the Tower moment you're expecting. Some of you may be going through a situation of a possible divorce or legal separation that you were sure was going to come through. And here you are, you find yourself back into a reconciliatory position. It could be that whatever comes out of this justice event actually serves in a way to reconcile you with the other party. Judgment comes in when we begin to have experiences that show us the other side of a situation besides our own narrow viewpoint. It could be that you have had certain experiences coming into you recently that begin to make you understand the other side of the equation, right? Now, regardless of who is at fault per se, there's never any one person at fault. Judgment also really talks about letting yourself go for any misplaced guilt that you may have. Finding forgiveness for yourself, right? It could be, Taurus, that you may have instigated this situation, and yet you're finding yourself realizing maybe that things could have gone a little bit differently. Right? Now that certain experiences have come into you, you may be realizing that you would have, going back, you might have handled it a little bit differently. So let's get into your attitude towards your love life this month and the energy that's coming back with you. Your attitude is Queen of Cups, and this is interesting because it's a feeling of really wanting to open up and share. Certainly with this judgment coming in and the feeling of sort of wanting to reconcile, it could be that in March you're feeling a lot more sensitive. You're feeling a lot softer to the situation. It could also be, it feels to me also like Taurus, did you perhaps have a bit of a breakdown in a relationship where ultimately the problem was really just communication, right? Just really not being able to open up to each other, perhaps, and sort of the problem may have spiraled out of control. Before you know it, you found yourself in a state of separation, a divide, perhaps even talking about divorce. But again, with this with judgment and this Queen of Cups energy that you're bringing to the table, it feels very strongly like you have softened your position. You have felt like, you know what, perhaps we can just talk about this, right? Coming towards you is a Knight of Swords that meets that energy. So this is a feeling of really wanting to cut away all of the negativity around you, the obstacles that are standing in your way. Some of them are obstacles associated with swords. And so that could be gossip, that could be miscommunication, bad communication, interference from other people. But the Knight of Swords is the type of energy of sort of vanquishing that, right? In a very real way. Vanquishing that with communicating, with talking, with, in some situations, it will be coming up with a certain solution. But here I think, you know, whenever we see a court card in the sword suit, you know, wielding that sword, it really is the sword of truth in a lot of ways, right? Because in communication, we want the truth. When we talk about the mind, we want it to be as clear and toward a sort of truth as possible, right? And so it feels to me like while you are being very open and receptive and ready to communicate your feelings, you definitely have the other person who is willing to come in and be honest now, to be almost brutally honest about what has happened. This feels to me, Taurus, strangely enough, I'm going to say to you, now please be careful because some of you are going to think that this might be for your situation and it isn't, but this feels to me strongly like a Taurus who is at the brink of divorce or a legal separation, and this month you are going to be reconciling. You're not going to go all the way through with it. It could even be that the death card represents the death of this legal action in the sense that it's not going to be going forward. This feels like the Tower moment is the understanding that perhaps you guys are actually really meant to be with each other, are actually meant to sort of work this out, and everything else may have told you it's over, it's over, it's over. Yet in March, you realize that perhaps it isn't quite over yet. There's some room for discussion. There's some room for opening up to each other. Certainly there's a feeling of reconciliation coming in. What you desire, though, your greatest desire is, of course, Ten of Swords. And Ten of Swords talks about an end of struggling, of arguing, of strife, of having your ego knocked down. This could have been a case of a relationship where you know, things went a certain way or communication went a certain way that really hurt you and really hurt your ego, you know, and you may have even exploded. Maybe your anger at Taurus got the best of you and you took it to a certain extreme, but still having sort of come back and thought about the situation now, what you really truly desired may have not necessarily been the end of the relationship, but the end of the type of things that were going on in the relationship that was hurting you. And I think a lot of this was a case of miscommunication, misunderstandings. You may have even allowed a certain amount of interference, or your partner, your lover may have allowed a certain amount of interference to come in to this connection, right? They may have been listening to gossip, or they may have been listening to, you know, other people or pressures from family or whatever the case is. But it feels a lot like, you know, if you two get alone and get down to talking, you can get to the bottom of the situation and very much avoid the ultimate complete separation here. You round off with the Lovers. And it's a feeling of, you know, you guys will look back on this time as a very, very difficult time in your relationship where things almost completely broke up, but you managed to work it out. You managed to come back together because of the love and because you realize that, you know, love takes more work sometimes. Certainly when there's miscommunication, work needs to be put in. Let's get your clarifiers and call this your reading, Taurus. Yeah, this feels to me very much like a reconciliation in a marriage or a long-term relationship. And, you know, there was money involved. Certainly, there was some money involved, some pain over money involved as a result of the split. But I think the actual split itself happened as a result of miscommunication, of negative communication that may have come in, or interference by others that you guys allowed to impact your relationship, whether they be sort of negative communication from family or friends, listening to gossip, listening to other people who seek to undermine it. And it almost feels to me like once you guys get back together to really talk and express yourselves to each other, it's like you realize that all of this has come out of the outside interference rather than from just a lack of love. There's no love lost here. It doesn't feel like there's love necessarily lost. You know, because the Lover's card is there at your outcome, and there hasn't been sort of, there's no indication here that the love itself has taken any sort of beating. But this is all really so much about the dynamic of the situation. All right, Three of Cups. Ooh, there you go, Three of Swords. Okay. So there's your interference from friends and others, right? Eight of Pentacles, Six of Wands. So there's your victory. Bottom of the deck, you have Seven of Swords. So there is your treachery and your futility. Definitely somebody has been working against you behind the scenes. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was a friend. Someone has been allowed to interfere, and I don't even think you realize it, because Seven of Swords is... it is the card for futility, but it is also the card for treachery, right? It is the card for, you know, when you're dealing with someone who is duplicitous, who is working behind the scenes, you know, this is the thief in the night, right? It's also the card for futility, because oftentimes it's a feeling of no matter what you do, nothing seems to be working. You know, you try, and nothing seems to sort of get you to where you want to go. And a lot of times that can be because you have somebody interfering in a way that you're not even realizing. Generally somebody close. This could even be an example of someone who is, you know, pretending to be your friend, or acting as though they're your friend and your partner's friend. They're like the couple friend, right? But then you find out later on that whenever they're alone with either one of you, they're instigating problems. You find out that when you're alone with them, they're telling you bullshit. And when they're alone with your partner, they're telling your partner bullshit, right? But when you guys are all together, they're pretending that as though they have your best intentions in mind. And the reason why I say that is because you have Three of Cups here. This is generally a celebration amongst like-minded friends getting together. It is this kind of communal attitude, I think, that has impacted your relationship. It's certainly... somewhere along the line, you guys, you and your person have given way too much information to friends. You have allowed friends to become way too intimately involved in your personal relationship in some way. And one of these friends, I believe, has turned out to be quite treacherous. Three, right? You have Three of Cups. Now we have the Three of Swords, the great card of... broken trust, broken bonds, right? You know, the Sword and the Rose. Oftentimes the Sword and the Rose coming together is a message of solidarity, right? It's symbolic of solidarity when you look at it in literature and things like that. But here we have the Sword destroying the Rose. Right, so communication destroying the virtue that you have established in this relationship. A lot of times Three of Swords is looked at as third-party energy, but cheating and having a lover or cheating on someone with somebody else, that's just a symptom of really the problem. The worst thing with Three of Swords is that generally what happens is that a bond has already been established, trust has already been established to a certain degree, and then it is broken. Right, by some action, right? And it hurts so much more because you thought you had trust, you thought you had a bond. And that's what really hurts with Three of Swords. And I think what you're going to find out is that this is your Tower moment, right? This is your Tower moment this March. Finding out that, in fact, There has been a breaking of trust, the breaking of loyalty, but not from your partner, but from your friends, from someone who is close to both of you. All right. Strong reading, Taurus. Strong reading. Definitely a reading for you and your partner to get back together despite the interference. You have victory here. I'll get to it. Eight of Pentacles talks about discipline and work. Can be that through you sort of disciplining yourself and just getting your head down and working through this situation, because of course, if you're dealing with financial issues, you are indeed sort of, while at the same time dealing with this pain of the heart, this separation, this possible divorce or what have you, at the same time, you're having to build yourself up financially again. And so you're just working and being very disciplined. I think it is through this ability to work and be disciplined, and perhaps to maybe not be spending so much time with friends, because now you're spending a lot of time working, understandings are starting to come into you. It's almost as if because you've taken some time off from whoever this interfering party is, because you've been putting your nose to the grindstone, you are starting to see the truth of the situation, and your intuition is starting to speak to you a bit more. You're starting to get a better idea of what's really going on. Why? Because you have been, for a certain degree, Taurus, you have been more single-mindedly focused on your work, right? Getting through the work, right? Being disciplined. Could have been that up until now, you just, you were giving so much energy and time to your friends and to your social group that you weren't even realizing how treacherous some of their actions were. And now that you are separated from that and really sort of paying attention to what you need to, you're starting to see their actions from a distance and realize what's really going on. Judgment and reconciliation comes in because it feels like an absolute victory for you. Why? Because it is a victory. Jupiter and Leo energy, it is a victory because you're realizing that, in fact, I think that this entire break or this whole issue that you've had to deal with here, certainly with the rebalancing of an imbalanced situation, it was not down to you and your partner. It was down to outside influences. And if you can get together with this Queen of Swords and Queen of Cups and Knight of Swords, getting together and overcoming this situation and rising above, transcending it through communication and through openness and sharing, you absolutely have a victory, because you have a victory over those who sought to undermine your relationship. You come out shining with the Lover's card. Beautiful reading, Taurus. Very, very nice. I'm going to leave it at that. This is your March outlook in love. It is a general outlook, okay, into a general situation, so only parts of it may resonate with you. Just take what you can for your situation. And of course, if you want a special look into your specific situation, then I always advise you to book a private reading where we can really talk about what's going on with you. All right, guys, but for right now, have a wonderful March, and I'll see you next month for your love outlook. Bye-bye, Taurus.